Good morning, boys and girls. This is Dr. Madison, your music teacher. And this week, we're celebrating Bear Day. We have all activities that have to do with bears. So in the description on this Google Classroom assignment, there is going on a bear hunt. I hope you can have fun doing that with your families. And a new one called The Bear Went Over the Mountain. It's a very singable tune. And the bear does several different things. The tune goes like this. The bear went over the mountain, the bear went over the mountain, the bear went over the mountain to see what he could see, to see what he could see, to see what he could see. The bear went over the mountain, the bear went over the mountain, the bear went over the mountain to see what he could see. Now, one of my favorite books about bears is called I'm Terrific. Let's see what happens in this book. I'm Terrific by Marjorie Weineman Charmot, illustrated by Kay Carraro. Here we go. There's a picture of our friend the bear. It was written for Harry Weineman, my terrific Uncle Ned, with gratitude. Jason Everett Bear and his mother lived in a tiny little house deep in the forest. They took long walks under the trees and had long talks in the kitchen, and they loved each other. And there was someone else Jason loved, himself. I'm terrific, he told himself over and over, and I do terrific things. Jason had a box of gold stars, and every time he did something terrific, he gave himself a star. Or very terrific, 2 stars. Occasionally, he gave himself 3 stars, super terrific. Jason's tongue was always gummy from licking so many stars. But that didn't keep him from talking. When I hear myself, I always hear wonderful things, he said to himself. So there's Jason's mom, and there's Jason with his box of stars. One day, his neighbor, Raymond Squirrel, came by. Jason was sweeping the front steps. I'm a terrific worker, Jason said. I work so hard that some days my mother has nothing to do but look at her toenails and eat chocolates. Ridiculous, said Raymond. Also, I never wipe dirt on towels, said Jason. You're boring, said Raymond. I bet you eat spinach, too. Of course, said Jason. My mother mixes it with white sauce and calls it Green Cloud Supreme. I eat it all up. Yuck, said Raymond, and he went away. Raymond doesn't understand, said Jason, and he swept his steps with all his strength. Then he stood back to admire them. A neat job, maybe a 2-star job. So there's Jason sweeping the steps, and there's his friend, Raymond Squirrel. Jason sat down on his clean steps to rest, and along came Marvin Raccoon. Want to see the cleanest steps in the forest? Asked Jason. Not if I can help it, said Marvin, and he started to walk away. Stay and talk for a while, said Jason. Here, have a clean seat. No thanks, said Marvin. And he started to walk away again. Wait, said Jason. Why are you going away? Is there something wrong with me? Ha, said Marvin. If I asked you to name 10 things about me, would 9 of them be good? Asked Jason. You must be joking, said Marvin. My mother says I'm a good bear, said Jason. You're a mama's bear, said Marvin, and he walked away. Jason sat alone on his clean steps. Sometimes when somebody knows you for a long time, they don't appreciate you, he told himself, except maybe mothers. So there's Jason sitting on the step and his friend the raccoon, and the raccoon walked away. One day, a new bear moved into the forest. I'm going out to make a new friend, Jason told his mother. Here's my chance for someone new to appreciate me, Jason told himself. He went over to introduce himself. I'm Jason Everett Bear, he said. I suppose you've heard of me. I'm Henrietta Emily Bear, and I haven't. Henrietta looked closely at Jason. Why should I have heard of you? Well, Jason said, the truth is that I'm terrific, and I do terrific things. Name one. See my shiny hair, said Jason. I brush it until it squeaks. Brush your hair twice a day, and all the knots will go away. I'm also industrious, lovable, and a show-off, said Henrietta, and she slammed the door. You have a very bad disposition, Jason said to the door, and he walked home. Jason went to bed early. He always went to bed early. 8 hours of rest puts hair on my chest. But Jason couldn't sleep. The next morning he said to his mother, maybe I'm not terrific after all. Oh? You're the only one left who thinks I'm terrific. Maybe I'm just a mama's bear, Jason looked at his mother. I want to be my own bear, he said. That's what I want you to be, said Mrs. Bear. As you grow up, you will try new things, and you will learn what's right for you and what isn't right for you, and then you will be your own bear. Lately, I haven't tried anything new, said Jason, and I'm tired of the same old stuff. I'm ready for something different. Fine, said Mrs. Bear. There's Jason in his bed and having breakfast with his mom. I wonder what he's going to do differently. I'm not going to clean the house or me anymore, said Jason. All right, said Mrs. Bear. I'll be so dirty, flies and bugs will crawl all over me. Flies and bugs have rights, said Mrs. Bear. The piles of garbage will reach the ceiling and make funny marks on it, and we will have to wear clothespins on our nose. I have a couple clothespins I can spare, said Mrs. Bear. I'm also going to clobber Richie Ratfink today, said Jason. He probably deserves it, said Mrs. Bear. And I'm finished with spinach, said Jason. Well, it's getting out of season anyway, said Mrs. Bear. I am a brand new bear, said Jason, and now I'm going to try out the new me. Good luck, dear, said Mrs. Bear. I'm sorry, I forgot to show you the picture. So there's Jason in his bear high chair, and there his mom. Jason went over to Marvin's house. Marvin was in bed. Good morning, said Jason. I want you to be the second to know. The second to know what? Said Marvin, opening one eye. The new me, said Jason. Oh, said Marvin, opening the other eye. What's new about you? I've stopped eating spinach, said Jason. You don't say, said Marvin, and he closed one eye. I've stopped cleaning the house. Really? Said Marvin, and he closed the other eye. How can you sleep at a time like this, said Jason. Jason bent over Marvin and carefully tied knots all over Marvin's fur. He tied big knots, little knots, fancy knots, and plain knots. And then Jason stepped back and admired his work. 3-star knots, he said. Well, there's Jason visiting Marvin, and Marvin in bed. That wasn't nice to tie all those knots, was it? What? Said Marvin, opening his eyes. He looked at himself. Knots? I'm covered in knots. I did it, said Jason. Untie me, said Marvin. Untie me this instant. I don't untie. I only tie. That's the new me, said Jason. And he left. Jason went to Raymond's house, and Raymond was outside gathering nuts. Look at me, said Jason. I'm looking, said Raymond. Well, what? asked Raymond, as he put his nuts into neat little piles. I'm different, said Jason. Then what? Said Raymond. Then I was, said Jason. I save garbage, I attract flies, and I tie knots. Sorry, there's the picture as he goes to visit his friend. Raymond continued to pile his nuts. There's something else different about me, said Jason. I kick nut piles. And Jason quickly knocked down all of Raymond's neat little piles. A 2-star kick, said Jason. Hey, pick those up, said Raymond. The new me doesn't pick up, said Jason. It only knocks down. And he ran off. Jason went to Henrietta's house. I'm a new bear, he said. Really? Said Henrietta. I tied Marvin's fur in knots, I kicked Raymond's pile of nuts, and I'm going to clobber Richie Ratfink. I'm going to stuff cement into toothpaste tubes. Show off, said Henrietta, and she slammed the door. You don't like me, Jason said to the door, and he walked away. And he sat down by a stream and he felt sad. And he says, nobody thinks the new me is terrific. So maybe it's not. So there he is, kicking the nuts and visiting Henrietta. I wonder what's going to happen. Jason ran back to Marvin's house. I'm sorry for what the new me did, he said, and he untied Marvin's knots. Jason went to Raymond's house. Please forgive the new me, he said, and he piled up all the nuts. He went to Henrietta's house, but she didn't answer the door, and he left a pretty flower, and he went home. So there he is, untying the knots, piling up the nuts, and leaving a flower. His mother was sitting on the porch. Nobody likes the new me, he said, and neither do I. Jason sat down beside his mother. Now I don't know who I am. I know who you are, said Mrs. Bear. You are a good bear who is thinking things over. Well, that is a good thing to be, Jason said, a thinking bear. Jason spent the rest of the day thinking. This is the first real thinking I've done in a long time, and I'm out of practice. I hope I don't make a mistake. Jason went to bed thinking, and the next morning he woke up and ran downstairs shouting, Mother, I am what I am. I'm Jason Everett Bear, and I'm glad of it. I don't need stars or clean steps or cement, toothpaste or knots or anything, said Jason. And he ran back upstairs to his room. And he opened his big box of gold stars, and he ripped stars from his walls and lampshades and tables and chairs and bureau and bed. Here we go. That's him racing down to tell his mom what's going on. He took all the stars outside and he put up a sign in his yard. Giant giveaway. Stars new and used. Henrietta, Marvin, and Raymond came along. What are you doing? They asked. I'm giving away all my stars, said Jason. I don't need them anymore. I don't believe it, said Marvin. Believe it, said Jason. What about the old you and the new you? Asked Henrietta. Who are they? Asked Jason. I am simply Jason Everett Bear. I have nothing more to say. There he is with his big box of stars and with his friends. Incredible, said Raymond. Fantastic, said Marvin. Terrific, said Henrietta. Thank you, said Jason. The end. Well, I hope you enjoyed that story about Jason the Terrific Bear, and you enjoyed doing a bear hunt and singing The Bear Went Over the Mountain. Have a super fantastic day. Bye.